Find yourself a booth, order up a cold one. This is the Spring Bar.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Spring Bar. Glad to have you here. I am Florida Mike, and today we are going to discuss a very unique topic to certain parts of the world, which is our end of days watches. What would you wear for your regional natural disaster?
Regional natural disaster.
Because not every region experiences the same ones. So you're going to have a different watch for every natural disaster. So we'll get into that. Also going to discuss what has apparently become a very controversial topic, my Yema Yachtingraf and why I'm selling it. And possibly I'll reveal what it is that's replacing it.
Oh, no. I'm revealing what's replacing it.
As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Joe in the OC. Joe, how are you doing? This is an early
This
morning
is early. This is
for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm double fisting today. So I've got the cup of Joe, which is actually
Cup of
tea.
Joe. And what's in the other fist?
Bloody Mary.
Oh man. You know, I need to go get some Bloody
You need
Mary
to go get some.
makings.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
And I knew
gosh.
immediately we're trying to figure out. So Mike's like, "Oh, I got to go get my drink," and I'm like, what am I going to do? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Well, see, it's afternoon for me, so I'm not drinking a Bloody Mary, although one would sound really good right now.
It's anticipation.
So we know what you're drinking since you've already started. What do you got on the wrist?
Well, we're having our discussion and we're talking about end of days watches. And so on the wrist today is the G-Shock Casio DW5600.
Look at
And
that.
this one has got, so there's all this extra that they do for Casios. And you got to know what you're looking for and looking at. So this one's got, there's an additional lug adapter so that I can throw on this Perlon, and then I've got the extra protection over the screen. So in the event that I get an inadvertent ding or drop, it becomes a different thing. So that's what I got so far.
So it's G-Shock Plus.
G-Shock Plus, G-Shock with accoutrement.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Well, I'm wearing and I'm gonna try something a little different here. I'm gonna get into the screen share game. I'm not necessarily sharing a camera, but let's see if this works. Because I am wearing, does it show up? Does it show up? There it is.
Ooh.
The Caravelle, what are we calling this? The Sea Hunter, the Clipper. They all share the same bezel, at least. Actually, let me point something out here. They all have the Sea Hunters, the various versions of them. This Clipper all have the same bezel design style, right? Though you have found out that they don't all
It is
swap.
It is not a swappable bezel. There are different
It
sizes.
is not. They're all different sizes in depending on which case they're on, which I find very weird. Well, not weird, but I find interesting because watches today. Oh, let me stop my screen. Am I back on? There I am. Watches today, if you're going to share a bezel design or any kind of design, it's all interchangeable. They don't make different parts specific to each watch anymore. Like if you have something that's a line of watches, everything's interchangeable. Back in the 70s, everything was very specific to that case because they were all different case manufacturers back then.
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. And then also I think it was a limited run because like, okay, we're going to buy 500 cases from this manufacturer and then they're done. It's like, okay, well, we need to re-up this. We're down to our last 5 cases. Okay, we need to get a new case. So they probably got it from a whole new manufacturer because we see that. Well, we see that in the Sea Hunter line specifically as they're making. So they do the transition from the first iteration of the Sea Hunter with the alpha hands and the waterproof dial. They move into the lollipop hand with the water resistant dial. And then when they go and do the Sea Hunter A, that's more of a cushion case rather than the standard lug. and there is a version of the Lollipop handset, not the A dial with the white extra on it. Then that becomes a different thing.
Yeah, but
So,
even cases, like I have watches that have identical looking cases, but the insides are milled differently. One uses a plastic movement holder, one uses a metal movement holder, one doesn't use a movement. It's like
well,
the
it's right
crown
back to
tube
like
sizes are all different.
that Canadian oceanographer, right? That Canadian
Yeah,
666. And we had there's that one with the EPSA case, which
yeah.
was totally different than everything else, but the dimensions were the same. So it becomes
But the,
really
the
interesting.
front facing side is identical, but as soon
Yeah.
as you flip it over,
Yeah.
completely different in every way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just weird. Today, that would never fly.
No.
Never fly. So moving
Unless,
on.
unless it's a micro brand or a Kickstarter watch.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
But that where you're looking at a much more limited run.
So I'm drinking. Funny story about this. This is Victory Brewing. This is Berry Monkey. What is it? A fruited sour triple. And
I don't even know what that means. Is that like some kind of Sour Patch Kid? What the fuck is that?
well, so sours is a type of beer, which is not really a beer, but it's considered a beer. It's just a sour. It's a different type of flavor.
It's sour.
Some more than others.
Yeah,
This
why
is
would you?
actually very enjoyable. However, it's a triple, which I only just really discovered what that meant when I bought this. Bought it on a hot day after work. Just wanted some cold beer. This came out of the refrigerator section. Got home, poured it in a glass, slammed it down. Right. A triple is brewed stronger than a normal beer. This is 9.5% for a beer, which is a lot. The headache that I got after
I'm
slamming
drinking.
this thing down
I'm
on an
drinking
empty
vodka.
stomach, no less. I know, but for a beer, that's a lot. And if you're a beer drinker, you'll know what I mean. Like you're not slamming that down.
But no, I got ice.
Yeah. And I will not be for this either.
Oh,
I've learned
I
my
could.
lesson.
I'd be happy to slam this down,
I bet you would.
but then I'd have to make another one. So
Mm,
we got discussions.
yeah.
Did you get anything new?
Uh no.
I've got nothing.
Did I get anything new?
I don't think so.
No. I don't think so. It's been a little bit.
No,
I've got something new coming.
you're right. You got like a trimmer.
A trimmer?
Yeah, the Jonesin. Get the withdrawals, DTs,
Oh,
shakes.
yeah, kind of.
I've got stuff. I've got stuff with our man formerly from in Japan. I'm waiting to see that come back.
So he's got your project
I'm a project
oceanographer.
watch, and we haven't had much of a discussion about that yet. And he's
No,
also
that's my question is where it kind of stands.
we're nowhere. He's busy, so it's working on the weekends, and I told him no rush. And who knows, maybe a bezel will show up. We'll see.
Did he say the my contribution to this project, did it arrive? Did he get
Yes,
that?
it did. Yes,
Okay,
so
good.
we should be okay.
Okay.
Should be all right. And then I think the 774 is in just about the right space. Doesn't need much. Movement was okay. It was just the crown, and he has a crown. So
Okay, yeah. And those who really pay attention to the show may know what we're talking about, right? But what it basically you're trying to do is a white dial oceanographer,
yeah,
which is what you've wanted for a long time, and which you got the loom dial kind of scratched the itch a little bit, right? Because that's more or less a white dial,
you know,
but
until
you wanted a
until it comes inside.
yeah, you wanted a vintage version of it. So you took an old oceanographer V dial, which is the orange,
Dial, right?
and you did what with it?
Taped it to a grow light. My wife's got plants on the inside of the house, and so we have UV lights, and I taped it to the UV light.
For how long?
A year.
A year, a good year.
Left it for a year. So remember, like we saw, I pulled it off after 6 months.
Yeah.
And it had gotten this kind of almost like an orange fume. Remember, because it was really good in the center, and then it was moving towards orange right at the edges, and like it was kind of cool but it wasn't right. And so all I did is I moved it 90 degrees and retaped it and left it for another 6 months.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like some of the OG listeners will remember because we used to have you pull
Yeah,
it down
yeah,
during the shows and
take a
we
look
check
at it
its
every so often.
progress. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you tape it right back up there
Put it right
again.
back up. Yeah.
So it actually worked though.
Mm-hmm.
After that period of time, it turned completely white. So you had, what was it, like an oil spot
There's an oil
outside the
spot.
minute track.
Yeah, right around like 230.
Yeah, and that still kind of has a little orange hue to it.
The oil didn't come off, and so it's protected that spot.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
maybe
other than that,
wipe it down, but I don't want to mess with the outside track.
Yeah, completely black and white though.
Yeah,
otherwise,
which is really because like
it's actually kind of cool.
It is. It's really cool. It's really cool. So I've got a case for it. I've got a bezel for it. Kinda. It's a work in progress.
So the bezel came from what were they? Citation?
Yeah.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
A Citation electric
This one,
watch.
there were a couple versions of it. I don't know if this one's electric or not. It might have been.
I think so.
It could be like it's a new old stock bezel, but it's a steel bezel, and so
yeah, it's a steel bezel. But what's weird is they used the same style case, the oceanographer case,
right? But it doesn't exactly fit.
Which brings us back to what we were just talking about. Same looking thing, but it's just ever so slightly different. So we'll see.
It could just be that it's the way what crystal they use versus what crystals Citation was using. But
I bet you that can be milled to fit.
I'm certain that it can. And then also the crystal that's on that case needs to get swapped out because it's a internal Cyclops date, and the dial is a day date.
It's a day date, yeah.
So that's got to get changed.
So basically what you're after is a white dial day date oceanographer Franken.
Ish. Yeah.
Which I think when you get to whatever you're happiest with will actually look pretty cool.
We'll see.
It'll be a one of one, that's for sure. There will be nobody else that has one.
There will be nothing like it.
No.
There'll be nothing like
it. So put your offers in now. Bid often, bid early, bid often, right? Isn't that what they say?
Could be. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
All right. So moving on to today's topic.
Let me introduce the topic because I can get into this a little bit different. So as we know, our friend Mike is in Florida. And if you have been paying any attention to the Weather Channel or the national news, you will know that Florida has gotten windy and wet recently. So Milton was started as a Category 5 and ended up as a Category 3 when it made landfall. By the time it got to you, it was in the 2 area, and now it's off to sea and enjoying its tropical stormness.
I don't even think it's anything anymore. It dissipated fairly quickly once it left the state.
Right. And that seems to be fairly typical. But then you also had, what was the one before that? Harriet, Irma, whatever the hell it was.
Helene. So Helene came through just a few weeks before Milton did. Helene was a massive storm as far as size goes. It was, for us, off the coast, maybe a couple 100 miles, but it extended about 100 miles off the East Coast. It was something like 800 miles wide, that storm. It was massive, massive storm. So we felt some of the effects of it, but it wasn't more than tropical storm type stuff for us. However, that's the one that went up towards the Panhandle and into the Carolinas and just caused all kinds of mayhem. This last one, Milton, kind of came right across Central Florida.
Yeah, went from Tampa across over Orlando and then out the other side.
Experienced the eye, which was very weird, right? Because it was blowing, pouring, everything sideways, right? And then it just stopped. And it's just a light breeze, no rain, nothing. Lasted about 20 minutes or so, and then it just picked up, started blowing sideways again. Yeah, it was very weird.
So our friend Mike was part of a ride out crew at his place of employment where they said, okay, you're going to work a full day and then go get a bag, and then you're going to come back and you're going to work all night. How much overtime was that?
Um, I don't know. I was there for the ride out shift for 22 hours.
So you got well past golden time.
So I worked a regular 8 hour day,
Mhm.
got 2 hours to go home, get my stuff packed and ready to go, and then went back and was there for 22 hours.
Which is why he's getting a new watch.
And if I got 2 hours of sleep that night, that was a lot. Like there really isn't much sleeping that goes on there. You try and rest here and there whenever you can, but
So
so
this
yeah.
this prompted the discussion, since we knew that Mike was going to be out doing his things. Like, well, what watch are you going to wear? And then brought up the discussion. He was like, well, what watch do you wear for the end of the world? And what would you discuss? And it's a tool watch, and why? So let's launch into it. And since you were the one who experienced it directly, why don't you tell us, what watch did you ride out Milton with?
Well, I'm going to share my screen again here so that way we can get a look at it. That's the Caravel.
That's not it.
That's not it. This is what I wore. My Fodoxa. My Fodoxa Aquamarine Dial. And this is typically what I wear for work on a regular basis, but I wear it because it is a completely sealed watch, 200-meter water resistant, all steel, and I don't mind if it gets banged up, and that's why I bought it. I bought it to be specifically a work watch. I changed the dial out a little bit to make it a little more cool, but it's a rugged, heavy duty steel, completely sealed, completely waterproof, ready to go, will take on anything kind of watch.
It's a good
And that's
call.
why I chose that one.
It's a good
And
call. I like it. I've seen it. It's solidly made. The bracelet is great. The case shape is great. It wears well. The bezel's
mhm.
functional. I get it.
But here's the other thing. And I had two watches with me, and I didn't really say that I had the other one because I only wore it for a very specific reason. I also brought with me my G-Shock,
Mhm.
and I brought it for the exact reason that you see on the screen, the backlight. So when it did come time to, hunker down in the bunker and try and get some rest, turn the lights out, I still wanted something that would handle whatever I could throw at it, just in case we had to get up and react right away. But I also wanted something that I could see in the dark. And the fake Doxa does not have very good lume. It would not last several hours.
Right.
But I had this on while I was sleeping, so that way I can just hit the button, I can light up the display, I could see what was going on. But if I had to get up and do something immediately, it was still a watch that is 200 meters water resistant, completely sealed. It could take the knocks and all that. But I didn't want to wear this continuously because this one holds a special spot in my heart, and I didn't want, to take gouge out of the rubber or something like that. So
You're welcome.
thank you, Joe. Came lovingly from you. So these are the two watches that I had, but the one that I had on most of the time that got me through it was the modded watch.
Well, so this is an interesting discussion, and the only reason that it's for in this particular sense, you chose those watches with a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I am going to, and so it brings us into kind of this conversation about watches that are purpose designed, purpose driven, that are specific for rugged wear. And you're essentially, you're looking at a tool watch. It's a tool watch through and through. The question is, though, what exactly is it that you're going to be throwing at said tool watch? And it's also going to depend on what kind of natural disaster is native
Whatever
native to
imminent,
your
yeah,
region.
yeah.
So
And like these are very much, ready to take on the water.
right, ready to take on water, and it's got a rugged case design, and there's some additional functionality. I didn't know that you brought the G-Shock, which is a really good choice. But it's a good choice for a hurricane,
Hmm.
right?
But then it
let's
kind of
discuss.
begged the conversation of you're completely on the other side of the country from me. You
I
are
am.
in California,
I am.
and you experience very different natural disasters than what we do.
Well, let's have a discussion here because Florida, you've got. I mean, okay, every once in a while it rains iguanas because it gets too cold and the iguanas fall out of the trees.
I
But
don't know what
it's
the
not a
iguana
blizzard.
rating is. I don't know what an iguana rating would be.
I don't either. I don't either. I don't think that you can be
Would
waterproof.
that fall into the category of a G-shock? I mean, it does hit with force.
I would think so. I would think so. But California, we've got a variety of different things that the experience. So primary amongst that would be earthquakes.
Hmm.
But we're just coming into wildfire season
Hmm.
where that that falls in between summer and fall is fire.
Hmm.
And then there will be after that will come atmospheric river season or El Nino, which
Hmm.
can and because my family likes to go snowboarding, that can be avalanche and snowed in kind of space. So there's a slight different expectation or slight different need that I have in terms of
Well,
a disaster.
and what's interesting is my end of days phenomena are definitely water based, which yours has to be. Your watches need to handle a much broader range of things,
Environment.
environments, heat, water, ice, temperatures, G forces. So it's fairly easy for me to pick a natural disaster watch, but I feel
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and I
It's
feel
different.
as if you've put a lot of thought into this,
I have put some thought into this, and it's
and I
something
feel like you may have more than one watch,
I do. I do have more than one watch.
depending on the disaster.
This is
So,
true. This is true.
okay, so can I be an earthquake? If I'm an earthquake,
Okay.
what are you wearing?
Earthquake watch comes down to it's very very simple. This is my earthquake watch, right? It's
Really
the GMT. And it's
interesting choice. I would not have picked that one for an earthquake.
well, it's automatic, so
Okay,
it's going to help. You know,
so as you're sitting there shaking,
right? But
winding up your watch.
if we're talking about a really bad earthquake, what's going to happen is services are going to be shut down because everything's underground out here.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I see your thinking here. All right.
Okay, and so services are gone. The water, if it is a serious enough earthquake, we are completely shut down because the roads are going to be unpassable. The freeways are going to buckle or collapse. The
Hmm.
roadways are going to be jagged and broken, which means that everything underground is also going to be shot. So we're going to have the power lines are going to be down because the poles will have fallen. The internet will be off because the lines are broke. The water system is failed because all those lines are underground. Um, yeah, it's 3 days from the zombie apocalypse at that point in time. So this sucker with enough loom, automatic, don't need to worry about it, and it's also kind of heavy. So if I need to take somebody out to go grab some toilet paper or whatever, I'm able to do that. So that's that
And
is the
that's
field
weird
goal.
because I never would peg that watch as being a quote unquote adventure watch, which is basically everything that you're describing, right? You're going very primitive
Mhm.
in that
Right.
particular natural disaster, and you're going on an adventure. And
Absolutely.
I would not call that an adventure watch.
It's interesting though because like when you think about where the history of this watch and where it came from, it's right up the same line as your Doxa. Puts it into the same category, right? It
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
it was a tool driven specific dive watch with supposedly having excellent loom. This one's got the full loom dial, so I'll be able to see it better at night. It lasts for a long time, and I'll be outside because there won't be any roofs because the buildings all fell down. So
All right, fair enough.
it's an oddly specific set of circumstance. All right,
It is.
so that's
What are we moving on? Can we move to fire season?
We can move to fire season.
Okay.
I thought about this one. I thought about
All
this
right.
for a little bit. And
So what, before you show the watch, what would
yes,
be the requirements for a fire season watch? Because this is something that I'm really, we do have some wildfires here, but they're very small and they don't really get out of hand like the stuff that you have there.
right.
So I don't really know what the requirements would be. Explain to
Well,
me.
okay. If you think about fire, you've got to be able to wear the watch. The watch needs to be comfortable. The watch is also doesn't it shouldn't melt.
Mm-hmm.
That's a consideration that one should bring in.
Plastic G-Shock is out of the question.
Plastic G-Shock is out of the question. Right. And I thought about that as well. I was like, okay, how well do those suckers really handle heat? And the answer is probably not so great, right? It's electronic.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a consideration. The other thing that I thought about, and this was hard for me. This was hard for me. This is a difficult thing for me, and I'm going to admit it on camera that it has to be on leather.
I understand why.
It's hard. This is hard for me to say. It has to be on leather, and it has to be on leather because the metal bracelet will retain heat. So there's a problem. And if if it's on leather because it's a hide, it's skin, leather will burn at the same rate that I burn. So I'm probably good with that into a certain amount of retention and into heat. So with that in mind, for my fire watch specifically is the A15 reissue.
Really?
Multiple timing bezels.
Okay.
Leather strap, right? Really, and it's a really high quality leather strap. But also, this one's it's PVD coated and it's fully black, so it won't show fire damage nearly as badly as some of my other watches.
Do you feel the PVD coating will hold up to high heat?
Sure.
Okay.
Why not? In the event that this watch gets damaged by high heat, I'm probably in trouble. I think that the watch is going to be the least of my worries at that point in time.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So that was my next choice.
We'll go with that. So, third natural disaster for you would be El Nino.
El Nino.
Do you, and I generally don't know, so I'm not trying to be dumb about this, but do you get tsunamis on the West Coast there? Do you feel the effects of those?
You can, and it's more earthquake driven. The tsunami stuff happens. There'll be a tsunami warning, but tsunami is one of those funny little things because while I am coastal, the amount of distance and the amount of stuff in between me and the coast, I think where we are, I'm about maybe 5 miles from the beach, but we're also at about 1,000 feet of elevation comparatively. And that's fairly common for most of coastal California.
Yeah. So let's say El Nino, or in the off chance that you're on the beach when a tsunami happens.
Right.
What watch are you wearing?
Mill ships.
The mill ships. Okay.
Chunky, solid, really visible. Another automatic. It's going to handle any kind of wear. It's got a great case, functional bezel with the push down click. So in order to turn the bezel, you have to push down on it. There's a little spring release in there, and it'll move both directions. Great watch, wears well. 16 millimeter strap. And so this one, as long as there's no fire, I'm okay.
So I'm curious because this and your oceanographer GMT are both dive watches, both purpose-built tool watches.
Yeah.
Is the only reason why your oceanographer GMT, your earthquake watch, because of the loom dial? Is that what sets that one just that much apart? Okay.
Yeah, I want the loom dial on that just because if the power is going to be out, which is probably the case, you want to be You want to be ready. You want to be able to see.
So that's 3 natural disasters that you got. Do you have anything else?
I have my avalanche watch.
Oh, the avalanche. Yes, that's
An
right.
avalanche watch, right?
Okay.
So avalanche watch, bright orange.
I also understand the thinking behind this one
Right.
because it's bright orange.
It's bright orange. And
Mhm.
compared to my other, it would either be this or it could be the LE. It would be one
Yeah.
of my brighter colors, but those are the ones that I know are waterproof because
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the snow. And so I typically go snowboarding with dive washes. And that's just me because snow is water in an
So
alternate form.
the last time you went skiing,
Uh-huh.
what watch did you wear?
I want to say
Okay, so you may not remember. Let me ask you this. Was it either one of your orange dials?
no.
No. So you were not prepared for that
No,
natural
that's
disaster.
wrong. That's wrong because I took an orange dial like that one with me
Uh-huh. Okay.
because I bought that to flip. Remember, it was that one, and it was like the Euro.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah. I remember that. I do
I had
remember
both
that.
of those with me,
Yeah.
so I had an orange dial
Okay.
along the trip.
Okay. So you were semi-prepared.
Yeah.
You would still have to make it back to your chalet in order to put the watch on, but you did have one with you.
Well, I wore it on mountain at least once.
Okay.
I forget what else I brought with me on that trip, but it was specific for a reason. Like a lot of times I'll wear white dial watches too because they look good in the snow.
Hmm.
They're pretty. But
I get that. That
the other
whole
thing though,
white camo look.
this was really funny though because the last time we went, we actually got snowed in. There wasn't an avalanche, but we couldn't get out. Like the roads weren't clear, and we had to wait. I think 6 hours before we decided to before we could head home. And there's been times the place that we go in the mountains, there's one road into the village, and sometimes there will be an avalanche, and so the main road gets closed. Now there's a way around it. You got to go around a lake, and you use a back road, and you can get out, but it can be kind of hairy when you're in a space where you just got one way in and one way out, and that way out is shut. So it's an interesting time to be recognizing like we're not leaving, and
Yeah.
I got shit to do. So it's fun. It's a fun consideration.
So a lot of people will say to me, you have to deal with hurricanes, you have to deal with tornadoes, you have to deal with alligators, right? You have to deal with Florida man. Why would you want to live in Florida? However,
Yes.
based on the conversation that we're having,
Yes.
I have one natural disaster watch, right?
Yes.
You have 4 because you have 4 different types of natural disasters that you
I
can go
do.
through. Now,
But
I will say, because I live in the tropics, we can have, and as has been demonstrated, we can have hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, back to back to back. I think several years ago, before I lived here, there were 3 hurricanes that just came through, one right after another, and it just causes destruction. I get the argument. However, I'm not dealing with earthquakes. I'm not dealing with fire. I'm not dealing with avalanches. I don't have that kind of stuff. So the question really is, why would you want to live in California?
well, I think that the difference between a hurricane and an earthquake is that you can't plan for an earthquake. I don't know when it's going to happen. I assume one is going to happen. We haven't had a major earthquake where I live.
Well, not a major one, but you guys just had one fairly recently.
Yeah, but you also got to understand that the the earthquake thing in California, at least for somebody who's native, because I grew up here. I've had earthquakes my entire life. I don't register like it does. I don't even notice anything that's below a 5. So we're talking, 5 point whatever on the Richter scale. If it's a 4, I probably don't feel it.
I don't know if the Beverly Hillbillies was correct. California is not the place you ought to be.
You know what?
So load up the truck and move somewhere else.
You can say that, man,
Don't
but
come to Florida either.
don't come to Florida. I think you've got some level of natural problem almost any place you go.
Anywhere you go, it's there's something unique to that region.
You got most of the Southwest. You've got extreme heat that's happening at least 3 months out of the year. You've got other weather phenomena happening in the Northwest, and you've got snow and blizzards up in the Midwest.
Yeah, in the Midwest and Northeast, and
You got
all that
Tornado
kind of stuff,
Alley,
yeah.
you've got hurricanes, you've got Snowmageddon, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm all right. I'll take the earthquakes because they're normally and done.
You and I are just crazy enough to live in the most extreme places in the country.
I don't have
And
to
we're
deal with
okay with
Florida
it.
man though. That's that.
That's
I have
true.
that coming. There's no Florida man here.
That's true.
They don't even come to visit. So
No. Can we bring it back to watches again? Wow, that was an interesting conversation. Let's talk watches, and specifically the Yema Yachtingraf, and even more specifically, my Yema Yachtingraf.
oh, it's yellow. It's fucking yellow. You have a yellow watch, Mike.
A conversation you love to harp
It's
on.
yellow. And it took
It is
me
not yellow. Okay,
it's
hold on.
totally yellow. It took me a minute to realize what I did. Like you said, okay, I think I like this, and we talked about it. We talked about it a lot before you bought it, and it didn't sit with me. It didn't sit right with me, and I didn't
Okay,
know what
hold
it
on.
was.
I'm gonna share my screen again
You
here.
share your screen. I know what it looks like.
Okay. Well, for those that don't know, it's up on your screen here now. This is my
It doesn't
Yama
look like
Yachtingraf.
that.
It does too look like
It
this.
is not. That is the glamour shot. That is the beauty shot. And it's in shadow. It does not look like that.
It doesn't matter. That's the watch. It doesn't matter if it's a glamour shot or not. That is the watch nonetheless. So
Okay, because we all know that makeup makes no difference and lighting doesn't play a role in anything whatsoever.
okay,
Anybody who's been on a dating site has no qualms about Photoshop. Okay.
Okay. So let's go to the Yema website.
Yes, please show us your
Okay.
screenshots.
It's loading.
Uh-huh.
It's loading.
Yeah, we're gonna have to edit around all of this.
Maybe, perhaps. Okay, collections. Oddly enough, this is under the Urban Sport collection.
How can it be urban?
I have no idea, but that's where you're going to find the Yachtingraf. Okay, so Traveler, go down a little bit here. Yachtingraf. Okay, so here is the white dial with the canary and seafoam accents.
Yeah, beautiful. Looks like an avalanche.
And okay, here we go. Let's get into a better, more straight on photo. Okay, how does that do for you? Is that better, Joe?
There's the yellow.
Okay. When this watch first came out, probably going on 3-ish months ago, the first version I saw of it, and they have two versions. They have this and they have a blue dial. The first one I saw was this white. When Yema advertised it on their Instagram page, this was the first one to come out. Now, it's no secret that Yema has produced several iterations of the Yachtingraf throughout their existence. This one is the first white dial version that they've done, and with these particular accent colors. And I thought, wow, that is different. That is very different than any other yacht timer watch out there. And I like the bright colorways. I like the light tones, the pastels and things like that. And this kind of fit that
Okay,
bill.
I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you right there, because when you take a look at any of the solar lunars, which have a similar dial layout, it is not the same watch. It is not the same design of a watch, or not similar design, but different functionality, because it's not a yacht timer, which that is ostensibly a yacht timer. But the solar lunars have a very similar color scheme. They didn't start out that way, but they've definitely become that because they've faded. So I will say that the colorway of that is to hearken to the vintage style of the Solar Lunars, the Oris watches, the Abercrombie and Fitch watches that Hoyer put out.
Really?
Uh-huh.
That's what you're going with?
That's if you want to do a comparison of colors, you take a look at the vintage ones and look at that, and you're going to see a lot of similarities.
Okay. Here's the thing. I liked this version. I bought this version. I have this version.
Well, you're Mr. Miami. You're Florida man, and that's Florida colors. You throw that onto
Well,
a teal strap, you put it onto a hot pink strap, Mike, and you are set.
so here's the thing. This watch appeals to the brunch crowd at the yacht club. This watch is more form than it is function. Can we agree on that?
Oh, completely.
Okay.
Because it doesn't even
Here's
it doesn't have a regatta countdown timer, really, does it?
Well, it does. That's what this is right here. This whole dial right
That's
here.
the whole regatta timer.
This is the
But
regatta countdown timer.
it's in 10-minute increments,
Yeah. Here's the thing.
which doesn't work because the countdown timer is supposed to be in fives, I think.
It works, right? But it works differently. And I will wholeheartedly agree. So this is a Mecha Quartz watch. This is the Seiko VK63, which is the timer subdial is not made for a traditional yacht timer watch for the reasons Joe just explained. While it does look the part, and you can use it as such, but it's not the watch I would use if I'm starting a yacht race. That said, here's why I'm selling my watch. And there's a couple of reasons. And it has nothing to do with the colors.
It has everything to do with the colors.
No, it has nothing to do with
Everything.
the colors.
Completely. It's
Okay,
a
so it has a
yellow watch, Mike.
little bit to do with the colors.
Here's a
little with the colors. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Number one is look at the 6 o'clock subdial, right? That is your running second subdial. This down here.
Okay.
A white seconds hand on a white dial watch.
Well,
Doesn't
why does
make a
that
whole lot of
bother you?
sense.
Because you hate the running seconds in the subdial anyway.
No, I don't mind a running.
You can ignore it. What's the problem?
I don't like this dial. I don't like the 24-hour, the lazy 24-hour subdials, which is what this has. This is not a part of the chronograph function in any way. It's not a count up. It is not a count down. It is nothing but it just tells you where you are within the day, within the 24-hour scale. And I hate those dials. However, this one is hidden fairly well with the changes of the colors in the pie shapes, with the arrow pointer. It camouflages the poor functionality quite well to where my eye is not drawn to that lazy subdial. My other problem is moving over to the actual regatta timer. This is a big eye chronograph. And when you look at it, you can't get the difference in the size of the subdials because white dial. And they didn't outline any of the subdials to break it up. So it looks like the white dial just continues and continues and continues until you get into the little color pieces. Those are my main issues with the watch. Now, I like it. It serves a purpose, but the blue dial, which is this right here, and I'm going to pull up the glamour shot, right? Right away, you can see the difference in the subdials. You can tell where the subdial stops and the dial begins. The white seconds hand on a blue dial with the white markings, the white chronograph hand. It's a more traditional colorway, and it is more functional than it is form. Which is why you can read it, but it compartmentalizes the subdials a little bit better, well, a lot better. It's more of a yachting watch than is the white dial version. They each serve a purpose. The white dial version is going to be found in a restaurant. this is going to be found on an actual boat, right? Which is why I said after owning mine for about a month or so that I wish I would have bought this blue dial instead. I feel like while I'm happy with the one that I have, I would be that much more happier with this one.
Probably. Yeah.
So
It's more legible and it's not yellow.
the yellow has nothing to do with it.
The yellow has everything to do with it because this
Besides,
it has
it's not yellow anyways. It's canary. Joe.
Canary.
Canary and seafoam.
Yeah, that's yellow. I'm not going to argue about the color of seafoam, but we know that canary is yellow. Here's my issue.
Okay.
So when you throw up the blue, the deal with the blue is you can see that it's a big eye, right? And
Yes.
you tell that subdial, that's a big eye subdial. When you throw up the yellow, it is not. You can't tell so much that it's a big eye. Like you pointed that out. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Because the way that the subdial and your complaints about the subdial are absolutely correct. And so it doesn't have the same sort of visual appeal. It doesn't have the functionality. So that makes it a less legible watch. I think that the yellow central seconds hands is a dumb idea because you can't see it that well. It's not like maybe in motion it shows up better.
See, the central seconds hand being yellow, that does not bother me. And in fact, I like the yellow central seconds. I do.
Yeah, but
and the other thing that doesn't make sense that the yellow or the white dial has that the blue dial doesn't is this 10-second shading
at the bottom.
At the bottom. Why this one has this 10-second shading between a 25 and a 35 where the blue dial doesn't. It is white all the way around. There is no differentiating, that 10-second area. Yeah. I don't understand why this one has it and the other one doesn't. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
It's yellow.
Which you can't see in this shot, but down here, it's just the white track just continues.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of it's a simple dial. It's much more of a classic dial. I would say it's a little more of an elegant
much dial. More classic dial. This dial makes more sense. It just makes more sense as a yachting tool watch.
Right.
This
watch, something that's always happened when you're talking about a yachting timer, with the exception of maybe the Rolex Yachtmaster 1, which let's admit it, that's not exactly a yachting watch. It's spoken as one, but it's not entirely. The Yachtmaster 2 is a little bit much more functional when it comes to that kind of thing. But nobody really uses those. They're using a different type of regatta timer altogether.
Yeah.
And those watches, it's a very specific design, very specific functionality, and we need that to work the right way. But it's in the same place. Those yachting timers, the ones that are available currently, current day, those watches have the same issue as any other dive watch, that it's been superseded by everything else. You're using a much different functionality in order to get the boat across the starting line at the right time. So I don't know.
While I like the one that I have, I bought this.
You bought the blue dial, right? Like I said,
I bought the blue dial. The blue dial is coming. It'll be here in a couple of days.
But this was the thing. Like you said, you were going to buy. You said you were going to buy the white one. It's like, yeah, you probably should have bought the blue.
You know what? Here's the thing, and this goes back to everything we've preached through all the time we've been doing the show. You have to see a watch in person first.
Yes.
And with this particular scenario, there really is nobody that carries Yema watches. You can't go to a store, you can't go to an AD and pick up a Yema watch and get hands-on with it. You're at the mercy of what you see online, and then you have to order it. Now, I will say Yema does have a 14-day return policy. However, if you want to return it, you have to foot the bill to send it all the way back to France.
Right. So,
and I had that option when it came. I had the option because I had that 2-week period, but I didn't want to pay to send it all the way back.
Even with that white dial, you had to live with it for a little bit. It took me a minute to figure out why I didn't like it, and then you started showing pictures of yours, and it's like, it's the yellow. I don't like the yellow, and for whatever reason, and I think that I mean, if you really want to get into it, for me, it goes back to medieval heraldry and the fact that you don't put metal on metal. And in heraldic terms, white and yellow are silver and gold, and they don't go onto the same
Well,
space. They have to be broken up by a color. And in this case, you've got the yellow going right into the white, and it doesn't work. They're too close in terms of the color wheel and in terms of how the palette works. And then I think in the right light, you really would lose them if it's bright out, blah, 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 blah. And so
and I will tell you, you really don't. You really don't. And you think you would. You don't lose the yellow in the white. The biggest hang up that I have with that white dial watch is the subdials are not appropriately separated from the white dial. And that is the one thing that I keep going back to over and over again is the lack of separation from the subdials. You cannot tell that is a big dial chronograph. I'm sorry,
yeah,
big eye chronograph.
yeah. I get that completely.
Last calls?
Last calls. Yes, I have a last call.
Okay.
I have a last call.
What you got?
I teach high school. I teach high school music, which means I do marching band, which means I go to football games. I have been going to high school football games for over 30 years. I'm old. Since 1988, I've been going to high school football games. And so the team that my school fields this year, second year of the new head coach, last year was a bad year. We had, I think we won 3 games and we got blown out multiple times. And by blown out, if you're not familiar with high school football rules,
is this one of those they turn off the scoreboard kind of deals?
It's not that. Well, no, they do a couple of different things. They go to a running clock. They don't stop the clock so that you can try to stop the hemorrhaging. And that's when you get when there is a 35-point discrepancy. So if the other team scores 5 times, they have 35 points because multiples of 7, blah, blah, blah. Okay. If they've got 35 points and you've got not that, they will start a running clock. And so the running clock means that in between plays, the clock doesn't stop. And I think it's a 15-minute quarter, which means you're done in 30, unless there's an injury or unless there's other things. Normally when that happens as well, the winning team will start to put in their second string and on occasion their third string. And so, we call that, they start putting in the white shirts because those are the kids that haven't gotten dirty yet. And it gives everybody a chance to play. It gives the team that is losing a chance to play against teams that or players that are not maybe as talented or as first call for his first choice. And it gives everybody the opportunity to go through the game. It gives your quarterback has the chance to get repetitions in. They've got the chance to read an offense. It becomes a real-time practice, and it's beneficial for both sides. The winning team gets to learn a little bit about humility and how to win with style and grace. The losing team gets to continue to play and to try to find a variety of success. And I am not opposed to it. I like the running clock. It means I get to go home earlier. I've got no problem with it. We played a team last night, and our team, so like I said, the team last year was not very good. We lost 51-0. We lost 49-0 multiple times. And our team and the coach was like, okay, we have not scored at all. Keep playing, work through it. This is a lesson. You're going to learn it, take it on the chin. And when we're done, you're going to go shake their hands and you're going to thank them for playing you. And that's what he did every single time. It's like, you know what? You're building culture. You're building resiliency. You are developing these young men into learning how to get through and deal with adversity. All right. We played a team last night. It's fourth quarter, 8 minutes are left on the clock. We have scored. The score is now 29 because there was a touchback. their quarterback fumbled the ball in the end zone and we got extra points for it. So like, okay, fine. We score and every referee immediately throws their flag. So we've got 4 flags on the field and they're trying to figure out what's going on. So, normally when you score, the band plays the fight song. We had to stop playing the fight song in the middle because there were too many flags and nobody knew what was going on. Didn't know if it was going to be moved back to no clue. And so I'm watching to see what's happening. And the officials talk to the coaches. They talk to the coaches on both sidelines. I know my side. So I see an athletic director go out and the officials are talking to him. The officials come over and talk to the coach. Athletic director goes back out. The principal walks out onto the field. And then somebody else from there too. And they're not talking together. They're talking, there's separation. It's like, I have never seen anything like this in my life. I don't know what's going on. We have the ball placed for the extra point. And nobody is the kicking team is not coming out. They're not coming out to defend. The teams are not moving around. And then suddenly their team leaves. And there's 8 minutes on the clock.
Leaves.
They walk off. They walk off the field.
Leave. Really?
The whole team. Get up.
Okay.
Go. And like,
what's the score at this point?
29-0.
Okay.
No running clock. Mercy rules not in effect. None of these things.
Okay.
Right. And they leave and there's 8 minutes on the clock and like, okay. And the field officials announce that we've won and we go through our end of game ritual and leave. So I start texting the coaches that I know. I'm like, what happened? It's like, they forfeit. It's like they forfeit. It's like, okay. Yeah, the opposing coach said that there were too many injuries and the teams were kind of jawing at each other. And he's like, well, we just don't want to play anymore. And the official's like, there's still 8 minutes on the clock. And the officials and the coach is like, well, you can't make us play. It's like, no, we kind of can. There's a game and you got to play. It's like, well, we forfeit. And they left and they walked off and they got on the bus and went home. And like I said, it's been 30 years for me of high school football. I have never seen that in my entire life. And the bigger point to it is like, you know what? You're kind of doing a disservice. Like, yeah, your kids got into a hole, but they weren't losing 49-0 like our team did last year. And we continued to play. And you just decided, he was like, okay, we're just going to go. So now nobody gets the reps. Nobody learns how to deal with that adversity. It's like, we're not winning. We're just going to take our toys and go
home. You hear about it, but you never see that sort of thing.
Well, and so I'm talking with the coaches and they've done high school football their entire career. Like, what is this? And nobody's ever heard of anything like it. Nobody's seen anything like it. It's like, yeah, it happens apparently, but it's kind of like an urban myth, it didn't happen to me, but I know somebody who knew someone. That's the story. And so now I've got the firsthand experience with it. Like, all right.
So what did you guys do? Just like look at each other and be like, oh, okay.
We went home.
Okay. Time to pack up.
Went home, got home early. It was great. I was home from a football game before 10 o'clock.
So there's always an announcer, right? In the announcer's booth at the top of so what did they say at the end of this? What were they like? Okay, folks,
nothing, because they had no idea what happened. They didn't know why, and the other team just left, and it was 8 minutes. Like, Pacifica wins. Yay, team.
That's funny.
Play the fight song, play the alma mater, and everybody leaves and go home.
Huh.
I don't know. I think that there is a honor and there is a lesson in losing with class and losing with style. And if you aren't able to do so, then you probably shouldn't play. That's my last take.
Huh.
What about you?
That's something else.
It's something else.
I don't really have a last call. But being that we're talking natural disasters, I guess I just want to say we're not making light of any of this kind of stuff. We're making fun of whatever it is that you may have lived through or may live through in the future, and I know we have listeners throughout the East Coast, and if you've been through any one of these hurricanes, we're not trying to belittle anything that you've gone through. My biggest piece of advice is just always be prepared. That's the biggest thing I can tell you. Is really going to make a life or death difference when it comes to stuff like this. So I guess that's my last call.
Real quick, because my battery's going to die. How do we get in touch?
Yes. Well, today we are the Spring Bar Podcast. You can find us on Instagram at the Spring Bar Podcast. You can email us, thespringbarpodcast@gmail.com. On a personal level, I am 120 clicks, all spelled out 120 clicks. Joe.
I am Watch Taylor U for UPH, all one word. Here we are.
That's it. Until next time, when we have a weird topic to discuss.
Another one. Soon.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yes.